Okay, today let's take a probably not so quick look at the Hasbro Marvel Legends Zabu wave. Yeah, another Marvel Legends review. They just been coming all hot and heavy. But I don't mind. Marvel Legends is one of my main lines, along with Star Wars Black Series. And I'm not buying everything from both, but I had to have this wave, even though there were a couple that I'm not really familiar with. And that would be Black Winter Thor and Red Widow. But I was in for the rest of the wave, and especially Zabu, because Savage Land is just cool. So I had to have Ka-Zar, or Ka-Zar. I don't know. Ikaris is some classic Kirby goodness. Wolfsbane pretty much finishes off a team. Not my favorite version of that team, but still, it's X-related. I had to have it. Plus, it's Wolfsbane. And then finally, there's Cable, which again, X-related. That's my favorite corner of the Marvel Universe. That's my steak and potatoes. I love X stuff. But I did not get Superior Iron Man. I didn't need another Iron Man that I was unfamiliar with. Now, I say that knowing perfectly well that I just spent money on this Black Winter and this Red Widow. But they come with parts that I needed, so I'll find uses for them. Here's the important stuff on the back of Ikaris, Black Winter, Wolfsbane, Cable, Red Widow, and Ka-Zar. Yes, we're doing that. As always, warning, small parts. Do not put the pretty pieces of plastic in your pie hole. Please. On the top, there are just Marvel logos. On the bottom, the legalese, the barcodes. Let's start, to nobody's surprise, with Black Winter. And it does look good. I'm talking about you, kitty. Despite not knowing a damn thing about this character, I have to admit it is pretty dynamic. Especially here. That is some wind-blown hair, and it's usually not my favorite, but apparently when it comes to this character, it's a thing. And it works really well with the tattered translucent cape. It's got some flow to it. The body is complete reuse of this Thor. Same chest, same shoulder pads, same arms, same hands, same costume, same legs. Yeah, you get the point. The original didn't come with this fabric cape though. That's a Rebel 10 Customs original. But I don't think it came with this cape either. I believe the cape is new. And like I said, it's tattered and translucent. It's got a nice smoky feel to it. Now, I'm not familiar with this version of Thor either. Apparently he's a Herald of Galactus or something like that. I just dig the design. It takes a lot of the Thor elements and just kind of tosses it together. And saying that makes me like this version too, but I may like this even more because of the color scheme. There's just something to that shadowy dead look that, I mean, between the reuse and the lack of paint, well, okay, there is some paint on the face. You see the eyes peeking out, there's some shadow to it, the headband, but the rest of it is pretty much just all molded plastic. Don't get me wrong, the ethereal bluish plastic does stand out nicely against the pitch black of the costume parts, but overall, well, I was gonna say it's pretty plain. Like I said, it's dynamic, the colors work, but if you're just looking for a Thor figure, shoulder pads have a softness to them, so they do get up and out of the way, plus the ring around the shoulder peg function allows it to move with the arm, so that is very, very cool. Except for the arm coming right out as soon as I moved it. That's odd. Huh, and plugged back in. Okay, solid torso. What about the other side? Okay, that's not... Was that a thing on the first one? No. Okay, it's just that one. It stays, but it's easy to pop out. Nice texture to the under costume. The big P is smooth with the discs here, here, and here. Have a strap on the right hip for a hammer. That same square top armor on the arms and legs. Disc on the inside of the knee pad, spike on the outside. It is a rubber piece that gets out of the way, glued to the knee itself. And then more strap around the boot, more texture. The weight of the hair does like to drag the head back to where it's constantly looking up, but that is a lot of hair. I guess I could get... Okay. There was a kick forward with kind of a detent, so it's tighter right there, and he stays looking down. And it makes it more menacing. I just noticed just how flat this Thor's hair is, so that's complete opposite ends of the spectrum. Going over articulation, like I said, hinge at the top of the neck with the ball going up into the skull. There is some gap back here, so does look up and then hinge forward to look down. There's actually some tilt. Where is Galactus? Over here. Back at the shoulder, rotates around. You gotta get the hair out of the way. And then hinges up to there. Swivel at the bicep. Hinge and swivel at the elbow. Comes up slightly past 90 and then rotates. I say rotates. little tough. Swivel at the wrist with a hinge in and out. Dumbbell mid-torso gives a little crunch, some arc back, some tilt, rotation. The flappies around the waist are a softer material, so that'll allow for the hips to go up to here and back and then out. Swivel at the thigh, hidden within that design work. Double knee, oh, not quite, but valiant effort. Hinge at the ankle goes back. There's a heavy detent right there. Goes forward and then front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories, there's 2 fists, and then it's a Thor type figure. You gotta have a right gripping hand and a left calling your shot kind of tensed up claw hand. Then of course there's the hammer in that same black plastic. Makes it very kind of scary, especially with this billowing smoke coming up off of it. It feels like they're separate pieces. There's some wiggle, but I can't seem to get the thing. Oh, okay. It locks in there. There's actually a snap. The easiest way is to push on the end of the hammer and it just comes right out. And that is reuse of that same Thor's hammer that came in translucent blue the first time around. Next up is, of course, Red Widow, because I don't know much about her either. Okay, I really like the look of this figure. The new parts and overlays do a lot to spruce up the standard female body, but it also causes some problems. You already know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, there's no avoiding it. Like I said, the body itself, it's just a plain female body. You have the new double pinless elbows. There's some pinless knees, and it's interesting that they molded the knee piece in red in the middle of the black. It works. At first I thought it was a knee pad, but no, it's just the color of the knee itself. I'm not sure about the feet though. They've got some shoe details, some wrinkles at the toes. There's been so many bodies I can't keep track. The straps around the thighs is just that. It's straps. This one doubles up and then goes to a single, and then this one's a double strap that comes around to a sheath of some kind that doesn't have a slot on top. It's just there. Then there's straps around the torso, tight around the midsection, and then this looser strap is attached. It's all one piece, which is cool because it gets up and out of the way of the legs if you're doing some posing. At first I thought that was supposed to be a belt buckle just painted on, and I was gonna say, well, that's not great, kind of lazy. Then in the art on the package, it's just a symbol on the costume, so I guess that's accurate. I really like the head though, just those wide eyes peering out of the shadow with kind of a face mask plate type situation happening. There's some seam lines sculpted in, and then the shape, the hard angles makes me think it's like metal. But then there's the cape. Again, I like the look of it. It has this high collar coming up. There's a flip to it. There's an angle where the hood kind of slips down into it, where it looks like all one piece. You have this part flying up and out, exposing the right arm, allowing for some articulation. But then this side is almost double layered and flips down over the body. And then, of course, the material of the cape itself. That really hinders the movement of the left arm. You can only come up to about right here and out to about right there. And that's angling the torso. That's kind of faking it. Straight up and down. Let's see. Yeah, about right there. The right does come up, but not so much out. Again, that is very form-fitting to achieve the look they're going for, the look from the comics, I guess. And I like that. It's a nice presence on the shelf with other figures, but it does kind of knock down on the playability. In fact, can I do this? Ball with a hinge. Okay, yeah, it's not attached, it's just sandwiched between the hood and the body. So if there were a third-party soft goods cape to pop up somewhere, that would be pretty sweet. Because without the cape, again, hinge at the top of the neck with the ball going up into the head. Hood is form-fitting, but because of that hinge, you can kind of coax it to look up and then down. A little bit of tilt to the left, to the right. Pin coming out to the shoulder goes around and then a hinge goes up to there. You know the deal. I showed you how hindered it was. I'm showing you what the body can actually do. Swivel at the bicep, double elbow, all the way up, very nice. Swivel at the wrist with a hinge in and out. Dumbbell at the mid-torso, hula hoop action all the way around. I do like that that's painted black across the bottom there. It keeps the look no matter where you pose it. Ball at the hip, kicks up to here, back and out. Swivel at the thigh. Double knee. Oh yeah, it's a nice day for Red Widow. Hinge at the ankle goes way back, way forward, and then forward facing pin for rocker. Put this back on and see what we can do with the accessories. Doesn't work like that. Out of the package, she has 2 grips. Then there's an alternate left fist and a right splayed out hand. But I'm keeping the grips in because she comes with this staff with blades on each end. Just some metallic silver paint, a little sculpt where it attaches, and then red for the staff itself. Well, okay, as much as I griped about the cape hindering the arms, you can get some dynamic poses out of it, as long as you keep the arms in mind. Notice they're not up or anything, but shit, this may be the shelf pose for me. Next up, Ka-Zar, because while I love the character, it's essentially just a naked action figure. And can we appreciate one thing here? Nipples. It's a tiny little thing, but for a character showing this much skin, I like that added detail. I know these are comic book characters, but I also dig a little bit of realism. Too long have we endured the nippleless male. Pointing out the obvious, but this is mostly reuse of the Vulcan body. Same arms with pinlessness and the random cut across the forearm. Same legs with the slightly low knees and the boot cut across the shin. Same luscious abs. It's even mostly the same sculpt to the upper torso, except for, like I said, nipples. Thankfully, the open savage hands aren't reuse of Vulcan, because I've always thought those are a little large. These are smaller and more proportionate for this body. It looks more natural. Nice hairy sculpt to the top of the footwear along with some leathery texture. What I'm saying is there's also the furry loincloth that has some nice sculpted detail to it, very in-depth, and a ragged edge across the top. Got a loop on the back for some accessories. And in case you were wondering, yes, the crotch piece is cast in brown. Other than that, there is the Kevin Plunder head sculpt. Now, it may look very Steve Rogers-like because of the blondness, because of the sternness, but I do believe this is a unique sculpt. The hair definitely is, I think. Well, okay. I hate to make definitive statements. It could be reused from somewhere, but I don't recognize the hair being pulled back behind the right ear and then just free-flowing on the left side. Got a dirty blonde look going on with the darker brownish yellow splotches. Well, I say splotches, they do follow the hair, but at a distance it works, out of the bright lights big city. I'm struggling to find anything else to say about a half-naked Ka-Zar. Oh, I could, but I'd just be retreading what I've already said. Basically, this is what I wanted for this character, and that's what I got. Articulation-wise, there is a hinge at the top of the neck with a ball going up into the skull. Hair hangs down long. Okay, yeah, it does get in the way of up, but there's a lot of down. Not a lot of tilt. Dinosaurs. Where? Butterfly joint at the shoulder goes forward, goes back. Pin coming out to the arm rotates around, hinge up to there. Swivel at the bicep. Double elbow, pretty good for a muscle character, but we knew that because we're talking about Vulcan. Swivel at the wrist, hinge in and out, very smooth, and a lot of movement. Crunchticles to here, arc back, and then there's a swivel hidden by the crotch cover. Ball coming out to the hip, kicks out, not the softest material, there's no split. It kind of gets in the way. You gotta kick out a little bit to get that high, and then back and out. Swivel at the thigh, double knee. He can kick himself in his own savage land. Swivel at the boot, hinge at the ankle, goes again way back, way forward, and then front-facing pin for rocker. In the package, the figure comes with savage hands. That's the best description I can give them. 2 fists and 2 trigger finger hands, which I guess work with the weapons provided, but I put the grip hands in because it comes with this spear, essentially a brown rod with a rope sculpt in yellow and then a stone spearhead. Not actual stone, just sculpted that way. Let's see how these trigger finger hands were. Slightly loose, but once he grips it up both hands, yeah. There we go. Lord of the Savage Land. Then there's this knife with a gold grip. I kind of expected something more bone or stone, but this works too. I seem to remember him holding this at times. Because didn't he choose to live in the Savage Land? When he was out of it, he was well off. He had money or something, but he preferred being in the jungle. Okay, the trigger finger hand isn't that bad when it comes to the knife. It looks like he's gripping the guard a little bit. If you put it the other way, it's not bad either. Then there's this loop on the back. Oh, and because of the shape of the knife, it gets tight right there and then falls right in. So it's not gonna just slip out. Okay, now we're gonna get into no specific order. Let's do Ikaris next. One of my weaknesses when it comes to action figures is a good looking vanilla pose. And right out of the package, boy, Ikaris can nail it. I don't know if it's the colors used or all this extra detail laid over for the costume, the grooves around the gloves and the boots and the extraness to everything, but man, that is just fantastic. During the Iron Man Retro Wave review, I looked at Whiplash and went, whoop, I don't know where those came from, but thanks to the comments section, I recognize these as reuse of Spider UK. I use that for a custom, but Electro uses the same body. Same musculature to the arms and the legs. They've just been modified to be pinless. See the wrinkle going across? Double wrinkles. But the torso is new, and maybe that's why I'm liking it more, because they've widened it. They've made it more super heroic. And it kind of had to be a new torso because of the sculpted black straps around it. Well, I call out just the straps. I thought maybe the discs were added on, but no, those are part of the sculpt too. So this torso is specifically Ikaris. And dang, it's on the back too. You have 4 discs. You have the big red one with the wreath in it, painted. The gold's there, just like on the front. The flappy crotch cover has the gold design with the lightning bolts, the angles to it. Again, very Kirby. Same thing here on the back. I do believe these are unique gloves too. Band, and then grooves all the way down. Exact same design to the boots. Very, very busy. When you get away from it, it's almost like shadow or darkens the color a bit, but you get up on it, there's the sculpt, and then there's some flatness here and there. Again, the head is that generic muscle man hero person type sculpt, so I'm not quite sure if it's reuse or not, but the hair definitely looks new. This time the flowiness goes to the right, and then the left kind of shows the ear. Well, I guess the ear shows on the right too, but you know what I mean. And it's this that kind of drags me away from handbook territory, because that's where I mostly know this character from. I didn't have a lot of exposure to him in the comics, so it was pretty much reading up on him in the guides. But I do believe at least the hair is more modern inspired. I wonder what this would look like with a shot of dull coat. Bring it all together. Articulation, there is a hinge at the top of the neck with a ball. See if the hair gets in the way. Well, about right there, and then looks down. Kind of medium tilt, I guess. There are no other Eternals in this collection? I say that because I don't have Cersei. I never got that 2-pack. Pin coming out to the shoulder, rotates around with a hinge that goes up to there. Swivel at the bicep. Double elbow. There's a cuff right there, but still not bad. Rotation at the wrist with a hinge in and out. Ab crunch. Are the discs gonna get? Nope, they will not. They just slide right up into the upper torso. Arc back. Then there's a swivel at the waist hidden behind the crotch cover. Ball coming out to the hip does come up to here. This flexes a bit, but it also kind of floats up and down. Back and then out. Not the greatest. Swivel at the thigh. Double knee. Okay, eternally kicks his own ass. Swivel at the boot. Hinge at the ankle, goes back, goes forward, and forward facing pin for rocker. For accessories, there are 2 fists, and then there's 2 splayed out hands with the same groovy sculpt on the back. So that's cool. Wolfsbane. Let's do it. And doesn't it feel like we've been waiting for her forever? Well, okay, there was this one, but I mean, if you were to see both of these at the same time, which one would you pick? Although I will say that I kind of like the head sculpt for this one a little better than this, but then the paint apps, I've got to go with some photoreal. Not only that, but it's what this figure represents. It means more figures in the future. First sculpt all the way down the arm, and then on the back of the elbow, there's even some sticking up. Same thing with the legs. That same nice sculpt running all the way down with some wild hairs here on the outside of the calves. Have some clawed feet, and then the hands are very feral with the claws there too. And yes, I chose my words wisely, because those parts could be used for an X-Force feral. Or if Hasbro wants to give us more Starjammers, a Hepzibah with the Squirrel Girl's tail attached back here, maybe? I'm not quite sure if the torso could be reused for either character, although now that I look at it, maybe some minor changes? With these triple straps and buckles and then this ring up here, I feel like this is very specifically X-Factor. Oh, and the zipper sculpt goes all the way down. That's neato. The X is nicely tampoed onto the chest, and then the back is fairly plain. I do like the yellows and blues. It stands out nicely against the orangey brown of the rest of the body. And that may be another thing I like about the older figure, the colors, the reddish brown to the fur. Don't get me wrong, this is superior, but there's little things that come along with this figure that I want to apply to this figure. Still though, that head and hair sculpt is great. She is kind of looking to the left. I'm not quite sure if it's supposed to be like that. I'll have to go back and look at the promo pictures, but if nothing else, I can just kick down a little bit, turn the head, and oh, that's a lot of personality. But then she has the pointy ears, the Wolverine hair and chops going up and around. I like that there's a slight difference. Well, okay, the hair has a wash to it to darken it a bit, and then the skin tone is that same color, I believe, just without the wash, so it stands out a bit more. She's just mean looking with that tilt. I think she'll stay like that. But I think I need a couple more of these to make customs that I'll finish just in time for Hasbro to announce the official figures. And then I'll be like, why did I go through all that trouble? Because it's fun, because I enjoy it. Going over articulation, there is a hinge at the top of the neck with a ball. Weird we haven't seen any dumbbells this wave, huh? Nothing in the way back here of looking all the way up. Oh man, that's gonna lend itself to some amazing posing. Way down, oh, tilt. Does Robo have the other members of X Factor open? We'll have to see. Pin coming out to the shoulder, rotates around, does kick out a bit because of the shoulder pad, but then hinges up to here. Swivel at the bicep, double elbow, oh, all the way up, love it. Twist at the wrist with a hinge in and out. Dumbbell joint mid-torso, gets hula hoop action, rotation. Ball at the hip kicks up to not quite 90. That may get in the way of posing. Then goes back, out, swivel at the thigh. Double knee, oh, that first sculpt on the back of the calf gets in the way. Hinge at the ankle, kicks back all the way, forward, and then front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories in the package, she comes with clawed hands. Then there's two fists that have claws also, at least they're on the thumb, but they're fists. And this is Wolfsbane. I'm gonna have her as savage as possible. Hey, that's my title. Oh, dinosaurs. And then finally for the regular characters in the wave, there's Cable, or Marvel's Cable. Not my favorite costume for Nathan, but it's still a Cable. And I love the character. It's so 90s. I mean, even in blue spandex, he's got to expose that metal arm. He could have easily put costume over here, but no, he's got to show off. And I'm so happy they didn't go with the banana hammock paint job on the crotch. They had it in the promotional images, which is accurate to the game, but it just doesn't look as good as this does. Although it does not match the art on the package. There's an exposed right arm and the straps are all kinds of different. I wasn't reading a lot of comics at this point. I didn't pick back up with him until Cable and Deadpool, and I love that series, but that was a completely different suit. Do I need another Cable to do something closer to this? Oh, so much customizing potential. The right arm and the legs are reuse of this Hercules. That's the reason for exposed pins in the elbow, but pin visible knees. Torso is similar size but different sculpt. They've added these costume wrinkles up and down here and then in several other places like under here, which kind of throws it off from the skin tightness, the painted on look of the arm, because there's veins sticking out here, but then there's a slight looseness here. The yellow straps do a good job of separating those two entities. And speaking of that, the engineering that went on with those straps and the belt is very, very interesting. The belt has fake straps sticking up where it's supposed to be attached to these, but to free up torso movement, they just put the straps going down and under the articulation point. You know exactly what would have happened if these were attached to the belt. You would have done this, and that would have stuck out. It would have pushed the belt down or up, or the straps up or out of the way. It would have screwballed it. Here, if you can disregard the darkness where it looks obviously separated there, all the movement. Nothing going wrong here. Have red and black painted onto the embedded X's up here on the chest because you need that to make sure you know what team you're on. Because there's also a painted on X for the belt buckle. It was the 90s, so you had to have your pouches and your pouches and your pouches and your pouches. Thick padded knee pads on the knees. That's why they call them knee pads, because they're padded on the knees. Top of the boots painted. There's no seam line, and I feel like the knee pads should be part of the yellow boot, so I wish that came up more, or this was all molded in yellow, or had a boot top sculpted in. Talked about the arm, but here's that close up. It has all the musculature along with the grooves. I believe this is new. I don't think this is reused from anything else, because they made the size and shapes match back and forth. I guess they could have taken the Hercules arm and added the grooves, but that would still make it new. But then there's this. Look at that gruff, grim bastard. War. It follows me everywhere I go, and every win. Have the scar over the right eye, the glowing left eye. I wish that was swappable, like you could take it out, but I also get the effect they were going for. Frown, check. Beard, stubbly. Hair, bright white. I like how the regular eye just peers out from under the brow. He is slightly looking up, so dropping the chin makes it look more correct. and mean. He's gonna come across time to kick your ass. All in all, fairly simple costume when it comes to Cable because he's had some doozies, but I really like this. This will end up over on my X-Men shelf somewhere. I know it's Marvel vs. Capcom, but give me a break. I don't care about video games. Articulation, is this gonna be? Nope. There's the hinge, there's the ball, can look way up, can look way down. Slide tilt. Mother. Father. Pin coming out to the arm, rotates around and then hinges up to there. Whoa, I forgot about Hercules having that much meat to his shoulder. But that does a good job of going into the torso and allowing the arm to lay down. For a muscle guy, he strikes a good vanilla pose. Swivel at the bicep. Double elbow, yeah, the bicep gets in the way. Did I forget about the wrist straps? There's those two. They are an overlay. Those will come into play here in a minute. Swivel at the wrist with a hinge in and out. Ab crunch, look locked up, not so. In fact, that's probably the best crunch of the wave, along with some arc back and then some swivel at the waist hidden behind the belt. Ball out to the hip, kicks here and here and here. Swivel at the thigh, beautifully hidden by these overlays that you can slide up and down. Double knee, oh, he can kick his ass through time. Swivel at the calf, hinge at the ankle, back, forward. In fact, oh, no, there we go. Great range there, and then front-facing pin for rocker. For accessories, out of the package, there's the clawed left hand and the fisted right, but those pop out, and yes, be careful with those. You don't want that to be carpet monster food. You know Cable came with some trigger finger hands. That's to hold the two weapons, and I believe these are reused. We've seen these with previous Cables or whoever. Up and down hinges for weapon-wielding hands. Oh, that's tough. Again, the costume is bright yellow and blue, but then you get to the head and it goes so hard. My parents dressed me for school. Then, of course, we gotta build Zabu. Fairly self-explanatory. Here is the... okay. There. That's a back leg. That's a back leg. Front leg, front leg. Didn't have to heat it up. It popped right on. Hopefully the others are like that. It's not an audible pop. It's more of a... It just kind of... goes around the ball joint. Come on, give me some sense. Oh, okay. There was a slight pop to that, so I'm satisfied. Oh, ferocious. Very nice sculpt all the way around, which it's essentially a big cat with a lot of fur going on. There's longer hairs to this tuft right here around the neck. The ears flared back, almost attack position. Cute little tail. That prehistoric hunch, you know what I'm talking about. It just looks like he's constantly on the prowl. Even if you try to relax it, it doesn't. Well, actually, okay, you can take that out of it, but man, this feels much more Predator. In fact, let's kick this back, bring this forward and make it look more animalistic. I know the green eyes are very comic booky, but it works. It just kind of stands out against the more natural feeling color of the body. Well, I say that, it's more orangey, but that's the way he looked a lot in the comics. There is a nice dry brush underneath, so there's a transition from dark to light that is also very natural feeling. The paws are painted black along with the claws. Same thing for the back feet. Same black up here on the nose. There's an off-white for the teeth, some gum, and opening mouth. You can see a tongue up in there and all painted the pinkish reddish color. This reminds me a lot of animals from other Hasbro lines. G.I. Joe, Dungeons and Dragons. This fits right in with that, and those are fantastic. This is just as nice. There's a trench for this neck joint that is tough as hell. I grab it, I have to push it. The detents are really heavy, so yeah, be careful with that because there is a sharpness to the sculpt too. Have them taking a nap, but can also look pretty fierce when needed. In fact, going over articulation, there is a hinge at the jaw, dumbbell joint at the neck that can look up, look down. There's some left and right and rotation. A trench allows the neck to move back to here and then down to there. Ball joint at the front leg rotates all the way around. There is a lot of swivel to it, and then it goes out that far. Hinge and swivel at the elbow comes up to 90, goes straight, and then there's rotation. Hinge and swivel at the paw kicks up to here, down, and then swivels. Dumbbell mid-torso goes side to side, down, up, down, up, whichever, that goes that far. Rotation, ball joint at the back leg goes around, has a little swivel to it, and then out that far. There's a hinge and swivel here that goes back and rotates. Then a hinge and swivel below that that goes this far and rotates. And then another hinge and swivel at the foot that goes back and forward and around. Hinge and swivel at the tail, up and down, all around. Woo, sizes are all over the place with this wave. Cable stands at about 6 and 15/16. Wolfsbane stands at about 6 and a 16th to the top of her head, or at least right there in the middle, and then the peaks, the points, go to 6 1/4. Ikaris stands slightly under 6 1/2. Ka-Zar stands at about 6 and 7/16. Red Widow is 6 and a 16th, and then Black Winter is about 6 and 7/8 to the top of his head, and 7 and 3/4 to the top of the wispy hair. Zabu's about 4 1/4 to the highest point, and then about 7 3/4 tip to tip. I don't have a lot of figures that feel appropriate with Ikaris, so here he is with the classic Iron Man and the best Marvel Legends ever made. Maybe I do need to get that 2-pack with Cersei and Black Knight. They're cool figures. And then here's Black Winter with Electro and She-Hulk, just because. Here's Cable with Cyclops and Bishop, both with casting cave heads. And then here he is with even 90s-er Cable and Cannonball. Didn't Sam have a costume kind of like this at some point? Seems a good comparison to put Wolfsbane into. And that, of course, brings in the rest of X-Factor, or at least what I think is the rest of X-Factor. Like I said, this isn't my favorite iteration of the team, but having most of them all together, it is pretty cool. The yellows and the X's don't quite match up, but it fills out a shelf and looks good doing it. Same goes for Red Widow and the other Winter Guard members that I have. I don't know which version of the team goes where, I just have the members. Marvel Legends Dark Star and Red Guardian, Marvel Select Titanium Man and Crimson Dynamo, and then the Memory Toys Warbear, just because it's big and imposing and looks kind of like somebody transformed into a bear. That's a display. Ka-Zar seems most appropriate next to Sauron. Then here they are with Zabu in the mix. I thought maybe Zabu would be reuse of the Dungeons & Dragons Panther, but it's not. There's quite a size difference. Same basic articulation scheme though, so maybe the same person worked on it? Except Guinevere has a dumbbell joint at the base of the neck for full movement. I don't know if this was done with just a slot because of the wide base. It does fit together pretty well, almost seamless. And they don't look half bad with one of the Mattel dinosaurs. Even better with the huge T-Rex from a few years ago. And for giggles, here's the Mezco Kong, because you never know what's going to happen in the Savage Land. Some people have been swapping the heads on Ikaris and Ka-Zar in order to make kind of a Marvel Legends He-Man, and I guess it works, especially if you add a power sword and a mighty steed. Wait, that looks huge, doesn't it? But Origins is too small. Well, I don't know, that's not terrible. Sorry, Zabu. Here's Ikaris with Ka-Zar's head, and it's not bad. It may sit a little high. I noticed that Ikaris's pops a little low, but they're both blonde-haired guys swapping hairstyles. I used Sentry's head on Will-O-the-Wisp a while back and have been looking for a new Sentry head, so I don't know. Why does that seem small? Well, okay, again, it pops low and seems more appropriately sized, but I don't like that hairstyle for Sentry. The search continues. Since I was talking about this feral head earlier, let's see if the sockets are even close to being the same size. It does pop on, it does sit high, but it does the same thing over here, so maybe I need to Dremel this out, and do I need 3 more Wolfsbanes? Maybe match this color up and paint the rest of the fur? I hate painting joints and such, but that may be worth it. And I just realized she's looking to the left here. Is that just a Wolfsbane thing? Then finally there's Cable. This is kind of, I don't want to say generic, this is just what you think of when you think of a more modern Cable. This is definitely Liefeld. It's got the hair, the look, everything. So let's try swapping this and pop this and put this over here and, ooh, okay. I really like that. Skin tone's a little lighter, which is an improvement. I like where they've been going with the colors on the flesh the past few waves. So will that pop here? That's okay. I also have this Casting Cave Jim Lee inspired Cable head, so let's take that and put that there. Not bad, but I think this works the best. I'm gonna keep this here, which is where I had it on the shelf, and this will be Cable. Also, I think about this time or in the game or something, he had a spear or a scimitar, I guess he called it. Looking through the collection, here is the MCU Odin spear, and it's not a great grip, and it looks really small. I guarantee if you get online and look for it, somebody has customized a Cable scimitar. Because battles are fought with bullets and blades. How about this? Does this work? No. So at the end of the day, just a nice balanced wave full of nice action figures. It kind of pulls from different parts of the Marvel Universe. You have your Savage Land, you have your X-Men, you have your classic, you have your modern. So there's a little something for everyone, which isn't always the greatest when it comes to a Build-A-Figure wave. But that's just marketing. That's just Marvel Legends. Love it, hate it. It equals sales on their end, and they're a company looking to make money. If it can get me less mainstream things like Zabu or Ka-Zar or Ikaris in this costume, then I'm all for it. But then we have some semi-classic team building, and then some modern for people who are into the comics now. I think the only one I'm really semi-down on is Black Winter. And it's not just because I don't know the character at all. It looks cool, but the arm popping out is super weird. I'm not sure if that'll be the same for everybody's copy, but I don't know, he's going in the fodder bin anyway. I'll find something to do with it at some point. But the rest will go in the display, even Red Widow, who I also don't know much about. I like the Winter Guard, so she'll add, well, I was gonna say add some red to that display, but there's a character called Crimson Dynamo. It's a different shade of red, how about that? And then when I think of Savage Land, I think of the X-Men visiting. So to me, it fits into that universe. Zabu, Ka-Zar will go over in that display somewhere. And then I'll be waiting for a Shayna, because we need a Shayna to this quality. I remember the San Diego set, but that's long gone. I don't even remember what I did with those figures. Or I would have compared the Zabus. More Eternals, more X-Types, more Marvel Legends. Who am I trying to kid?